Welcome to the Candle Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I am the Candle Business Coach. I'm also a mum of three and a kindness advocator. This podcast is all about making and selling candles, business development, and mindset, delivered to you with advice, inspiration, and motivation in a new episode every Friday. This episode is brought to you by the membership for candle makers, the Candle Makers Collective. Becoming a member gives you access to fortnightly online group Q&A coaching sessions to support you, monthly online workshops and trainings to help you grow your business, plus frequent expert guest speakers to inspire and teach you. You'll also have access to an ever-growing resource library with templates, guides, planners, and ebooks. But my favorite aspect of the membership is our exclusive Facebook group for accountability, connection, and support. So if you're looking to take your candle business to the next level and learn more about the membership for candle makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. Today we have another candle maker conversation, this time with the amazing Andrew from Port Fairy Candle Company. Now, Andrew has a beautiful story and a beautiful journey that I'm so excited to chat about tonight. So without further ado, Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, Kirsty. My name's Andrew, and I'm the owner of Port Fairy Candle Company.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started with candle making. Where did it all begin?
I guess with my story, it all began as during COVID time, during lockdown, with one of those things that people did back then. I discovered candle making. My sister actually started candle making and then she got me into it, and I needed something to do. So I got into it, failed horribly.
Oh no.
I remember following some instructions that my sister had handwritten out and didn't follow temperature, didn't follow all the sort of things that you need to follow. So then stopped after that and then got back into it when I got married last year, and part of our wedding party gifts were candles. And so we made candles for our wedding gifts. So Port Fairy Candle Company, I'm probably jumping a bit ahead, is an existing company already. So it's been around since 2017. And so the previous owners, which are close family friends, they gifted us for our wedding all the materials to make the candles.
Wow.
So that's how I got back into doing it. Yeah, got back into doing the candles again, failed because we didn't really do it. It was a kind of a mad rush, and it was just, it wasn't really done very well. But that's how I got back into it.
I love that your journey is so, you're so passionate about making candles and being in the business. And yet you're also not afraid to admit that, yes, mistakes were made in the past. And, it's a learning curve. It's a huge learning curve for so many candle makers. And when we come up against different challenges, it can be so easy to say, okay, that's where I'm going to stop. This is too hard. It's too intricate. It's not for me. Mm-hmm. But you saw the bigger picture of what candle making and having a candle business can do for you and your family. And knowing that you've got big goals and you've got big dreams for your journey through life means that this is the catalyst for you. This is the carriage that will take you to your goals and dreams. And so it's just so lovely to hear that even as a part of your wedding, to symbolize the union between you and your husband, to then have the beginning of this business. And you've recently launched your website as well, which is incredible. So we'll definitely chat about that in a little bit. But I want to know, what's been your biggest win so far? What's something that stands out to you as being something that you're proud of?
First and foremost, starting up a business. I think that anyone who dives into starting up a business doesn't have so much knowledge in terms of what goes into starting a business, or at least I didn't know the amount of work that comes with it. It's a lot of work. So I think definitely for me personally, it was starting up a business, and it's a personal growth. I think also the rebranding of Port Fairy Candle Company, that took a long time. And the website, I think, as well, which was so much work that took to that moment. So, quite a lot of things.
That's so amazing. I'm sitting here nodding, which obviously the listeners can't see, but I know that you've put so much effort and so much time and resources and energy into creating what the website looks like now, what the brand represents, and how you are putting your brand out, say on social media, for example, like the way that you weave in your products with also, kind-hearted messages, and it's about connecting back to your, like helping your followers connect back to themselves in a really beautiful and authentic way. And then, by the way, we have these beautiful candles that will complement your journey. So the way that you're going about creating that social media community is really quite beautiful, and it's so authentic and so genuine, and it doesn't feel or seem to be, here's my candle, buy it, here's my candle, buy it. It's very much, we're creating these beautiful products to elevate your experience in your own home. And I love that about your business. And I feel like that's a big win as well, because that takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable on social media, as opposed to hiding behind the products. But, you put your face on socials, you're not afraid to speak your heart and show up for your business in the way that it needs you to show up.
Yeah, and I think that it's, I'm very early on in my journey, but what I've learned is that it's more than just putting your candles out there to sell. It's more than just, okay, here's my candle, go out and buy my candle. Here it is. It's more about taking people through a journey, and for people out there to be part of that journey as well. It's, part of my stories are about wellness. It's about being calm, serenity, and that's part of the brand. And it's something that I learned very early on, and I'm still learning, that you don't just, pop your candles into a story and post and buy.
So true. And so many candle makers, or not even just candle makers, any e-commerce businesses or any businesses that may be a bit more newer in their journey, think that it is all about the product. But it's 2024. We're living in a time where people want to connect with people in a really genuine and authentic way. And because you weave your products and your journey and your messaging so beautifully, at least from my perspective, I want to keep watching. Like, I want to learn more, and I want to be a part of your brand. Whereas there are other candle businesses that I'll see, and you just know that anytime they post a story, it'll just be about, like, purely about the product, not even about educating about the product or about candles in general. It's purely, this is my candle, it's now on sale for 50% off because I need to clear my stock. It's looking at business through the wrong lens, or at least not the most profitable lens.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was on your podcast that I heard this, or I heard somewhere that starting up a business, candle, whatever, it's almost like dating. And you've got to woo, and you go, you take the person on a date, and then it's a second date, and then it's, it is a bit of a journey. It's not that you date someone, it's, can we get married the next day, or let's have children straight away. It's a journey, right? And you don't want to scare people off. So it's very similar. I'm learning and getting so early in my journey that that's what you need to do with your client base.
Now, on the flip side, I'm curious to hear, and I know the listeners relate so much to this next question, and that's in regard to the current challenges that you might be experiencing. Everyone goes through challenges, both in their business and, of course, their personal journeys as well. But when it comes to your business, what's something that stood out to you, or maybe that you're still experiencing, as being that's just something hard about making candles or having a candle business?
Oh, so many, Kirsty. I think right now the biggest challenge that I'm facing are the Instagram gods and the algorithm, acre algorithm that seems to just change, and you just have to keep up with it. And that's been a learning experience for me, and I'm still going through that process where I'm learning about the algorithm. I'm not tech savvy. I haven't been. It's not my strength, but learning about how Instagram ticks and that algorithm, and being, keeping up to date, and trends and audios and so much stuff. So that's been a bit of a challenge, but I'm learning about it. I think in the past, when I first started, definitely the testing process tested my patience. I think I broke down in tears many times. It took months and months of patience and testing, and it was a difficult journey at the start, but you do need to persevere. And I think the other big challenge for me right now, and I think it's because it's starting up a business, is work-life balance. That can be a little bit hard at the moment because I work full-time as well, and I've got quite a stressful job as well in my full-time role. So this is kind of on the side, and it's just, I think, making sure that I find time for myself and for my husband, my partner, and family, friends, and all the rest that comes with it as well. So yeah, that can definitely be a challenge.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we all face when we have paid employment as well as our candle business or as
Yeah.
well as our, our life and our families. We want to give all of ourselves to all of those areas, and it's just not possible. Something has to give. And there is that tilt between, do I invest more in my business this afternoon, or do I spend time with my family, or do I, finish that project that's due at work the next day? Or, it's not easy trying to negotiate with yourself as to what is the most biggest priority. But when you've got big goals and you know that when you reach them, life will be easier, or at least that's what we tell ourselves. There is going to be that real uphill, I won't say battle, but it is a journey. I know we use that word a lot on the podcast, but it's one of my favorite words. And it's so applicable here, in that you've got to go through juggling everything to then get to that tipping point when perhaps paid employment can go from full-time to part-time, and then maybe from 4 days to 3 days to 2 days, to then working solely in the business, depending on what each candle maker's goals are. But it is very hard to juggle it all, and you can get to a stage where you burn yourself out if you try and literally burn the candle at both ends. So how do you balance? Like, how do you figure that out? Or is that just a day-to-day doing your best trying to figure it out?
It's so hard. Sometimes it can be really hard. I think at the moment, I'm just so focused at the moment with the business, and we've all got personal things going on at the same time. So it's juggling personal work, your full-time candle business, website launches, orders. There is just so much that you have to do at the very start. And I guess sometimes you just go with it. And for me, I just go with it. Probably should be a little bit more organized, which is probably something I need to work on. But I write to-do lists. Yeah, I just go day by day, really, sometimes.
No, I'm not in here. I'm not in because I'm the same. Like, yes, I love writing lists and love the illusion of being so organized that I will get everything done. But more often than not, it's pushing things back to the next day, and knowing, when it gets to 9:30 or 10 o'clock, just to say, look, enough's enough for today. It's time to rest. It's time to recharge. The business will be there tomorrow. The to-do list will be there tomorrow. So rather than trying to get everything done and working yourself into the ground, it's very much having that self-awareness and recognizing when it's time to take a break, even if it's just the end of each day, knowing that as much as you're passionate about working in the business, there has to come a point where you say, and that's enough for today, and put the candles down.
Yeah, and give time to yourself as well. I think sometimes we forget to also give time to ourselves and look out for our own well-being as well. We focus so much on the external and everything else around us that we kind of forget about ourselves. And yeah, I've become more aware of that. I need to give some more time to myself as well, because you're right. Like you said, the candle business can wait. And if your health or your mental health deteriorates, then how are you going to be able to give your all to your business?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that with anyone starting up a new business, just be very much aware of that and self-aware, and give yourself some time, some self-care, love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true what you say, Andrew, and it's just so important to invest in yourself, fill your own cup so that you can then, pour and give out to others, especially our families, which are more important than our business at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
But to also have time and energy for our business as well.
Yeah, it's a fine balance. It's a juggling act, that's for sure.
I've yet to speak to anyone that has the perfect solution of how to balance everything.
And I don't have children either. I mean, I hear a lot of mums on your show, and I just think sometimes, how do parents do it with, kids as well, juggling kids into that picture? So I can imagine that would just be as hard.
Yes. It's But like you said before, like you just get on with it. Like you just go with the
Yeah,
flow. You figure it out. You take it day by day. And as long as you're still moving in a positive trajectory towards your goals, you will get there. It just might take a
exactly.
little bit longer than you might want.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it gets easier, or at least I think it does, or I'm hoping it does. I think it's those initial stages where you're setting up a business that it just takes a little bit more out of you. There's a little bit more
Mm.
sacrifice, and you just think, okay, things are going to get better.
Yeah, no, it's true. And look, they do because you're at the start, you're doing all the base admin stuff, like, you're registering a business, you're getting an ABN, you're doing all the bulk of things that only have to be done once but do take up time. Then once you get your systems in place, you've got your admin processes in place, you know how to, you've done your testing, you've figured out how to make the business run. Then
Mm.
it's about tweaking it and making it more efficient and starting to outsource and figuring out, okay, how can I do this faster, better? And by the time you reach that level of your business, you're a different person as well. Like you've grown to that level so that you've got the self-awareness to know, okay, this is what's required now. Who do I need to become to get to the next level? And that takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes digging deep to, journaling and working out what's important to you to know that your goals are aligned with what you truly want in life as well, not just and pick a number and that's the revenue that I want. It has to really mean
Mm.
something to you. And when it does, everything just falls into place. You sort of reach this point where you're enjoying it so much. Yes, there are still challenges and hard experiences, but you're better equipped as as you get older and as you mature. Like things just become a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just, yeah, that's what I just keep thinking.
Mm. Hold on to that thought.
Yeah, yeah.
What are your goals for your business? Where do you see Port Fairy Candle Company in 6 months or 12 months or even more?
Oh, I would love for our candles to be available in more stores. And I think going back to to the wins that you were talking about, I forgot to mention that I've had 2 stores approach me already, which is great. So I think for me, it would be great to have candles in more stores and not just within Port Fairy, but outside of Port Fairy and within Australia. I mean, that would be amazing. So that's the big goal.
I love
Um,
that.
definitely, yeah. Going back to markets, so that's where we started. Port Fairy was very big in the local market. So getting back into markets at least once a month will be good. Once everything's a bit more settled, and I think just more releasing more products as well. So I think the next thing will be diffusers, and I've got a few other ideas that I won't share just yet, but that are in the
Top secret,
horizon.
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, when this episode comes out, perhaps some of those secrets will be revealed and we'll be able
yeah.
to jump on the website and have a look.
Well, I've heard your 12-month episodes where you
Yes.
you catch up with a candle maker 12 months later. So
Yes.
we'll see where we are in 12 months.
Oh, I can't wait. That will be amazing because I love those episodes. And thank you so much
Me
for
too.
bringing that up
Yeah.
because not only do I get to, chat again to these beautiful candle makers that have gone on their, they've gone about their lives, they've gone and done
Yeah.
their personal journey, and they've come back and we can chat about how they've grown and both personally and in their business. But for the listeners, it's so fun because you can listen to both episodes back to back
Yeah.
and the whole concept of a year is just it disappears because you can
Yeah.
just listen to both episodes. I think it's so much fun.
It is a lot of
Um,
fun.
yeah, and there's only, I mean, gosh, how many have we done now? I think there's maybe only a little handful, but we're starting to get through more of the, round 2 episodes with candle makers from, over a year ago. So yeah, there's definitely more coming, which is so much fun.
Yeah, keep them coming. They're a lot
Mhm.
of fun.
Now, this is such a fun question to ask because most people have the same answer, but I still love to ask it. What's your favorite thing about what you do?
It's been creative, and I think I've never been the creative type. I'll be honest, and I think candle making has just brought this different side of me that I just didn't know, or at least it was there, and I'm just discovering it now. So yeah, it's definitely being creative and experimenting, and you're almost like a scientist, mixing different fragrances together and different waxes. You're constantly you always have these ideas in your head. So I think that's one of the most favorite things that I enjoy.
What gives you motivation to keep going?
Yeah, I think that you need to really celebrate the small wins and not to put so much pressure on ourselves. I think at the start, I was kind of losing track of the small wins, and even if it's testing a candle and that works out, and I get a hot throw or I get something, and it was like, oh yes, I got something right, and I had to keep reminding myself of those small things. And yeah, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself back then. I also think that it's really important that when your motivation does go down, that you surround yourself with like-minded people. And I think that's really important. At the start, I didn't know about the Candle Collective, which is the group that you started, and I felt totally lost and quite isolated, which I think can happen to a lot of candle makers because you're just lost in this whole world of candle making, of information and information overload and supportive and not so supportive people out there.
True.
So when I came across the Candle Collective, it was great because I felt supported in the group, and there were other people in the group that helped motivate me during those tough times as well. And I can honestly say that that really helped me when those times were tough.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for saying that. And I obviously I'm obsessed with our membership. I think it's such a beautiful space, and the group is so kind-hearted and open-minded, and really there for everyone that's in the group is there for everyone. And you think, but you're a candle maker, surely there's that competitiveness or there's holding information back. But everyone has different target market. Everyone has different sense that they offer. Like it's just a really nice space for candle makers to come together and be amongst people that understand the journey and can offer support and advice and just be there for one another. So I'm so glad that you found the collective as well. And it's funny because when I chat with different people that are in the membership, often they say, I have no idea how I found out about it. It just it just appeared one day. And like, I don't run ads or anything. So it's just, it must just be through social media or word of mouth or something, because it's growing so beautifully. But the group that we have are so, like, I'm so grateful for who we have in the group. And people come and go, and that's always going to happen in memberships and different parts of life. But the people that are in the group and that have stayed for so long really feel like they're a part of something more than just their own journey, which I love.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that it's important to be around people who get you and who know what you're talking about. And I think there's only so much candle stuff that you can talk about with your partner or with your friends or family. And they're kind of like, what are you talking? Yeah, what are you talking about? I don't really understand. With my husband, it was always, can you smell this? Can you smell that? And I think being part of that group where everyone knows what you are talking about, you support each other, and everyone is just so nice. I think a lot of listeners know that there are not so good groups out there who are not as supportive, which is just very sad. And I was part of those groups, and I had to just remove myself because I carried that energy and it was just not supportive at all. So the group definitely, and it continues to motivate me, especially during those hard times. Yeah.
Yay. I'm so glad to hear that. And I know that it's not just, me posting the group and people responding to the different posts I do. It's everyone's asking questions, and then everyone's supporting and coming in and being there for one another. And when we have our fortnightly Zoom calls together as a group, it's just like we're just buzzing because we're talking about candles, and it's something that we love so much. I mean, yes, we love our families, but we love candles as well, and we love our candle businesses, and we just want to talk about it with people that really understand, just the terminology and the trials that you can go through just through the testing phase. And how do I do a reel, and how do I find my ideal customer on social media, or, all sorts of questions. But the fact that it's able to support you and help keep you motivated as well is incredible. So I'm so glad that's your experience.
Yeah. And thank you as well, because, I don't know what I would have been or how I would have been if I hadn't come across it, which, mind you, now that I think of it, I don't know how I came across it either. You've left me thinking.
If you do remember, let me know, because I just think it's so funny, because it's the same like with me. Like, you find, you come across books or podcasts or different things, and you find them and you're like, oh, this is what I need at this stage of my journey, and it's come at the perfect time. And I feel like that's that's what happens for so many of the candle makers. Like I have people that are just finding the podcast now. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I've been doing it for over a year and a half. Like for me, I'm already, focused on the next episode of the next episode. But people are just finding it now. And then they've got all these episodes to binge listen to, which is so much fun.
Well, that's what I did. Yeah, that's what I did. I binged, listened to most of them now, and your videos as well as part of the collective group as well, which they're a lot of fun. So yeah,
Love
I
it.
think I've nearly gone through all of them. I've got a few to go.
Oh, I'm so proud. Well done. Because that's a time investment. And it means
Yeah,
that I've been in
yeah.
your ears probably more than your husband if you're listening to that many podcasts.
But it's also been good as well because as you know, I've connected with other people, and I connected with Gemma, who did my photographs as well. So it's been great because it's just been a wealth of knowledge with, people in our industry. So
Oh, I
yeah,
love that.
it's been very helpful.
Yes, that's amazing. Oh, I'm still beaming that you and Gemma Carl, our photographer friend, who we've had on the podcast before, and she also came into the membership to talk about how to take great photos if you don't want to outsource, if you want to do them yourself. She gave a lot of tips and hints, and all of those resources are they're in the membership portal for anyone to listen to once they join the membership. That information stays there. So the longer the membership goes on, the more resources and information and help and support is there, which is it's just becoming this thriving library of candle related content.
Yeah, and do you know what? Listening to her podcast, and when I went through the previous episodes, the advice that was given about photographs and how important they are. If it's one thing, if you can, and if you're in a position to do so, to spend that little bit of money on professional photographs, because. And I've heard this on your podcast before, it is worth it. It's definitely, if you can invest that little bit of money, do it, because it makes all the difference.
It really does. And if you're deciding between launching or waiting and saving up a bit more money to then invest in professional photography, my advice is always to get professional photography, because
Absolutely.
it'll make the difference between that person coming across your brand and taking it seriously and it's staying on your website, or seeing low lighting, grainy images, things that don't look 100% spot on, and leaving and going to a different website. So I'm so glad that you're able not only to connect with Gemma, but your photos are stunning. Like they are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, she did an amazing job. Yeah, I was so happy, and I'm so glad I did them, because I wasn't actually going to do it, and I tried doing them myself. And one thing that I have learned is that sometimes you just need to outsource certain things that may not be your strength, and everybody has strengths and things that they're better at. Photography wasn't one of my fortes, even though I did try, and I'm so glad that was one thing that I outsourced to a professional like Gemma. Yeah.
Speaking of your website, I want to chat a little bit about how the launch process looked for you. So did you set a date that you wanted to launch by, or did you just keep plugging away at getting the website sorted and tweaking it and then decide, okay, now I'm ready to launch?
So I work closely with a graphic designer, and she's someone else that has been amazing. So she helped with the branding, the logo. So she helped me up in the lead up to the launch, and we worked together closely. For me was, well, firstly getting the testing right and make sure that the candles are safe and ready to use. I guess that's what kind of decided it. But for me, the deciding on the date was the 2-week period prior to the last batch of candles that I made. So the last batch that I made, waiting 2 weeks, and that was my launch date, and that's how I decided. And in that lead up is where, you do the whole
building
revving
hype,
up
getting
and building
excited.
it up. Yeah. So that's how I decided on the date.
I love that. It means that you've set a deadline. Let's say you've marked that line in the sand to say, this is what I'm going to be launching. Now I'm going to start building up the excitement and talking about it a little bit more on social media, and talking about it in a way that gets other people excited too, so that when you say, I've opened my doors to my website, it's not crickets. There's a bit more excitement around it. And even if, this is the thing, like, just because you open doors doesn't mean you're automatically going to get sales, but there is so much more to a business than just the launch and just the launch date. But I love how dedicated and determined you were to get to that date, knowing how much effort and time and resources you'd put into it, not only the website, but the business as well. And it's such a significant moment to when you launch a website. It's such a huge, you got to celebrate. Like, you've got to either have a glass of wine or have a bubble bath or both, or just do something just to signify how special it is in the business journey. And the fact that you've done that, and your website is beautiful, but even the way you've weaved in your personality, I think is really beautiful as well. It's not just, again, about the products. It's so much more than that. And you've done that really well.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think, yes, there's a lead up to the launch of the website. Yes, there were 2 weeks, but like you said, it's more to that, and it's more that launch day. It's also after that, continuing that journey with people, and again, not just selling the product, but talking about your story and talking about the journey. I think that's equally as important as selling your product as well. And it's something that I'm learning, and I've learned very early on.
Which is such a blessing, because if you were a year or two down the track and wondering, why are my sales low, and why isn't this working for me, and do I quit because I'm not getting the results that I'm after, you've realized early on what's actually that secret element that helps businesses be more well-rounded, so that when you present yourself to the market, to the social media, or to markets in general, like actual physical markets, there's more to your brand than just the product. And it's more about connection and reminding people that that's one of the most important things, is having that connection. And especially for small businesses, like we're not big box stores. We can't hide behind, thousands and thousands of products. It's us. Like, we're the unique factor in our business. And if we can present ourselves in a way that highlights, hey, I'm a person doing my best, in the world, and I recognize you, and you're doing the best, and I've got these beautiful products that can help elevate your experience, it just becomes less of a transaction and just more of this beautiful connection.
And it's how you stand out as well. It's obviously a very saturated market with a lot of candle makers out there, that you do need to stand out, but you need to tell your story, and you kind of need to be different to other candle makers and tell your story. I think that's really important.
It really is, but it's so hard for many people to do that. It's hard to be vulnerable and share more about who you are. And that all comes into, self-worth and self-belief and all those different mindset struggles that many of us have. But if you can build your confidence in yourself, and you do that outside of your business as well as inside your business, but if you can do that and really tap into that connection piece with you and your potential customers, that's how you get those people to then become customers, right? It's not just, okay, if I say I have a candle for sale, then some random person on the internet's going to buy it. No, they buy into you first. They buy into your brand and who you are as the business owner, and then they'll part with their hard-earned money on your products. And then once they've got your products and they know how beautiful they are and how incredibly well made they are, then they'll come back, and then they'll be loyal, and then they'll be raving fans, and then they'll write beautiful reviews, and then it becomes this beautiful snowball that just gets bigger and bigger, but across so many different candle makers and so many different customers. So yeah, it's pretty incredible to see how it all unfolds over time. This takes time, but it's so worth it.
You nailed it there. It takes time. It's just not something that happens right away, that you start up and you're going to be a millionaire the next day. It definitely takes time. But you touched on a really good word, and that's vulnerability, that you do need to make yourself vulnerable, especially when you're first starting up and you really want to put yourself out there and you want to tell a story, because that's what people want to see, and that's how they connect with you. And part of that personal journey is about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that can be hard.
It can be really hard, because it means you have to face, your own inner demons and your own inner struggles enough to be able to process it, and then disconnect enough to get some perspective on it, to then share what you've learned with other people so that they can learn as well, and that you can elevate their personal growth journey as well. And you might listen to this podcast episode and think, I just want to sell candles. Like, why does it have to be about being vulnerable and sharing my journey? And why do we keep using that word? But you will find that the most successful small businesses are the ones that are showing their face on social media. They're in the reels, they're in the stories, they're talking to their followers and their potential customers as if they're already best friends, because they understand that that's how you connect to people through technology. And if you're not in a position to share who you are, there's only so far your business will go.
Mm.
And it probably won't get you to where your goals and dreams are. But again, it
Oh,
depends on how you
absolutely.
define success and what you're actually wanting out of your journey. But if you've got big visions of having this is your full-time gig and you don't want to have paid employment elsewhere, you have to be part of that journey and you've got to grow so much.
Mm-hmm.
But no one tells you that at the start of starting a candle business, right?
No, not at all. It's
No.
more than just, pouring some fragrance into some wax. No, there's a lot more to it. And,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes imposter syndrome can sneak in and self-doubt can sneak in, and that's where you have to have a bit of you have to have insight and kind of say to yourself, no, I can do this. I want to do this and I'm going to succeed.
Yes, absolutely. And it takes courage and it takes that belief of, I'm worthy of this journey. Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to challenge me. But the person I need to become isn't the person I am now. And I need to work out how to get to that next level. And then when I get to that level, I need to figure out how to get to the next level. And when you can look back over your journey of months and years, go, wow, like look how much I've grown. Look at how much my business has grown. It fills you with a sense of pride because that's you that has done the work and it's you that's inspired yourself, and the ripple effect that you can have like to other people, candle makers and just family and friends and people in general. You just don't know where that's going to end. And when you can inspire yourself and get motivated yourself and then spread that kindness and love out into the world, which you're doing with your social media already, Andrew, you just don't know how far it's going to go. And it's so inspiring to watch. And as I said at the top of this episode, like I'm so excited to see where your journey is going to take you. And when we chat again in 12 months, where you're going to be is going to be amazing. Like it's just going to be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And you know what? 12 months is going to go like wink of an eye.
Oh, it definitely will. It's what are we now? July already. Like where did the first 6 months of 2024
Oh,
go?
yeah, it's just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I'd love to ask you one last question before I ask you my three questions that I ask everyone on the podcast. And that is, how do you define success?
I think it's waking up every day being happy with what you've accomplished and being happy with what you've achieved. As I said, candle making isn't just about, starting up a business. I think that there's a lot of self-growth that comes into it as well. And I've learned a lot about myself as well. And I think that in itself is success to me, knowing that I've done my absolute best, put my absolute 100% into what I've accomplished so far. To me, that's success.
All right. So we've come to one of my favorite parts of the podcast where I ask three questions to all my podcast guests relating to candles. Number one, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
Out of my own collection, out of Port Fairy Candle Company collection, I would have to say Australian Bush. That's my absolute favorite. If I'm going to choose one out of my collection, which isn't Australian themed, but it would have to be Amalfi. I love Italy and I've been there a few times, so it just reminds me of being in Italy. And patchouli and bergamot and patchouli. Sorry, I had to think about that.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Good
Yeah, it's
combo.
beautiful. Yeah, so that'd have to be my top three.
It's so hard to choose one, isn't it?
Did you? It's one, isn't it? I gave you three.
You did. I asked for one, but you can give me as many favorites as you
I,
like.
I could name another five if you like.
I know,
But
right? That's the thing. Like when you choose your collection range to sell, they're most likely the ones that you love as well. And it means
yeah,
that you're more passionate about it and you're able
yeah,
to convey that love with, copy on your website or talking to people at markets or like just anywhere in person. We shouldn't just make a candle fragrance because we think it's going to sell. We need to start off with what we love, and then we can evolve from there. So I love that you're in love with your fragrances. That's really important.
and I did go. I think like a lot of other candle makers, I did go a bit crazy with fragrances at the start, and you do get really carried away. And yeah, so
I think we can all relate to that. All right. Question number two. What do you love about candles?
oh, what do I love about candles? Relaxing. I love just having a bath, even cleaning. Yeah, just the smell. They're just so relaxing after like a long day at work or something stressful. You just turn a candle on and your worries just seem to go.
Yes, so true. Again, I'm sitting here nodding, which listeners cannot see, but I'm sure we can all relate that it's just, yeah, candles are pretty awesome.
And it's therapeutic as well. It's self-care.
It is. It really is. It's at the essence of having that bubble bath or, curling up on the couch with a good book with a candle burning in the background and after
Yeah.
you've cleaned the house. And yeah, it's definitely like that. And then the last question is, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to other candle makers?
There's so much advice. It's just so hard to narrow just to the one. I guess be prepared to make a lot of sacrifices, I think. Be prepared that, there is a lot of work, and not to get too carried away with other things that are going on in social media as well. I think it's quite easy to compare yourself to other candle makers, and don't, because your journey is going to be completely different to someone else's journey. So yeah, try and not to compare yourself.
That is really good advice. When we are feeling low in ourselves and we lean into social media and we lean into looking what other candle makers are doing, you just end up feeling so much worse about your own journey rather than looking at other candle makers for inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Not to copy or anything like that. It's more just, wow, look what they've done there. That's incredible. How can I have my own spin, my own twist on presenting my products and my brand in a similar way, but it's still unique to myself. But when we get caught up with comparing ourselves and we're just going through and scrolling, you're not taking action in your business. You're not actually moving the needle in your business or your personal journey. It's very much a state of overwhelm and stagnation and feeling like you're not good enough to be where they are. But it really is, you need to have that self-awareness to know when you're in that mindset, and that takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, and I think you can get really bogged down into how many views, how many likes, how many followers, and all that sort of stuff that comes with it. But really, you need to target your niche audience and who is out there to buy your candles. You can get very fixated by all of that stuff in social media world. And yeah, I think that would be my number one advice. Don't get caught up with that.
Andrew, thank you so much for being on the podcast tonight. I've absolutely loved our conversation. We've touched on so many different points, but I really feel like the listeners will just love our chat. For anyone that wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you online?
So we've got my website, which is portfairycandlecompany.com.au, and on Instagram at portfairycandleco.
So I'll pop all the links in the show notes for anyone that wants to get in touch and say hello. You might even find that there are some candle makers that have seen your candles floating around on the social medias. So it would be cool for anyone to connect in with you. But otherwise, thank you so much again for being on the podcast. It's been a real joy, and I look forward to chatting with you again in 12 months' time.
Thanks, Kirsty. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to this episode. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout the conversation, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're feeling inspired, I would love it if you would write a review for the podcast and give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.